Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, coming at you from the glorious Impala Films headquarters in sunny Southend-on-Sea, it is time for another episode of Second Take Cinema. As always, I am your host, Jamie Evans, and I am joined, as usual, by a man who is seeing this film for the first time in his life, Rory Jocelyn.
Cyberpunk Studios! Woo! You didn't say Impala Films for you, did you?
No,
Oh,
I never do.
Now I'm a dude. I thought you did.
No, I only do on VGMP.
That's where I'm getting confused.
Yeah.
Yeah. In which case, I've just douched myself.
I say we're coming from Impala Films headquarters.
That is true. That is true. That's maybe why.
Which is me. That's just me imitating Mick Garris because that's how he starts his podcast.
Stifler's mum.
Just say hello.
Hello, Stifler's mum.
But Joe's not in this film.
MILF.
Joe's not in this film.
On him.
The very excellent Don McLean song, "Bye Bye Miss American Pie." She put a Chevy in the levee, and the levee was
it
dry.
even mentions Levy for Eugene Levy. I honestly thought that song was written for this film.
No, that song's really old.
I know it is. But like, I kind of okay, maybe I missed. What I meant is the name of this film was because of that song.
Yeah, it does. It came from that.
Right.
Yeah.
So why isn't it in the film? Could they just not get the rights?
Maybe it's over the credits and we just stopped.
Yeah.
Anyway,
or they couldn't get the rights.
Yeah, possibly.
No, we're not putting it to that film.
So today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going back to the 1990s, this year to the grand old year of 1999, right on the turn of the millennium. We're going to...
Turd of the millennium. Turd of the millennium.
Stop interrupting my flow, bro.
Sorry.
Today we're going back to 1999 for a coming-of-age teen sex comedy that was massively successful at its time. Rory here has never seen it. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a second take on American Pie. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, today we are talking about American Pie, the 1999 film directed by Paul Weitz in his directorial debut, written by Adam Hertz. This film stars Jason Biggs, Chris Klein, Alison Hannigan, Natasha Lyonne, Thomas Ian Nicholas, Tara Reid, Mina Savari, Eddie K. Thomas, Sean William Scott, Eugene Levy, Shannon Elizabeth, and Jennifer Coolidge, aka Stifler's mom.
Yep.
With a cameo from John Cho as well, that you noticed.
Yes, John Cho. I like John Cho.
Yep. So this film had a budget of $11 million and grossed $235.5 million. This was a huge hit at the time. In fact, just to give you an idea of how big of a hit it was, in Germany, it was distributed by our good friends over at Constantin Films.
Hooray.
Who ruined Resident Evil. And it was the most successful theatrical release in Germany that year.
I think the fact that Constantin Films had any hand in this, even if it was just distribution in one region, proves that it's not a good film.
In the United States and Canada, it was the 20th highest grossing film of 1999 overall.
Right.
Out of curiosity, shall we just take a look at what beat it?
It can't be the highest grossing film in 99. The
20th.
Matrix came...
20th highest grossing,
I was going to say, I thought you said highest grossing. I'm like, the Matrix clearly beat the shit out of this film.
Here are the top 10. Let's play a little game. Why not?
Okay.
What do you think the 10th highest grossing film of 1999 was? I'll give you some hints, okay?
Yeah.
Hint number 1, it's a sequel. Number 2, it's a comedy film. And number 3, it's a parody comedy film. 1999's 10th highest grossing film.
A parody comedy.
And it's a sequel.
That's a sequel. Airplane 2? No, that's way too late.
Yeah.
Spider-Man 2?
No.
You did a weird hand gesture. That's Camp.
Groovy, baby, yeah.
Oh, Austin Powers too. Okay.
Yes, The Spy Who Shagged Me.
I thought that was 2001. I'm well out on that.
No. In number 9 is a film starring Mina Savari from American Pie,
right,
alongside noted not great guy Kevin Spacey.
You told me about this 5 minutes ago, and I've forgotten the title already.
American Beauty.
That's it. It was still American, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which I confused with Black Beauty. Was that always the one about the horse?
Yep. In number 8 is also a sequel. Bam, 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 bam. I'm not doing the song right. Da-dum, da-dum, dum, da-dum, da-dum, da-da-dum.
Oh,
dum, da-da-dum, da-da-dum.
Would that be Tomorrow Never Dies?
Da-dum, da-da-dum. Close.
GoldenEye.
No. What was the one between those two? Da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. No, it's the one after that one, sorry.
Is it the ice one?
No, the one before that. The one before Tomorrow Never Dies and Die Another Day.
Oh, Christ. I'm really not that au fait with the
It's got Denise Richards in it.
Yeah, that's not going to help.
No? Okay, do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
The World Is Not Enough.
Oh, bollocks. See, I know the names, but I just don't know the order.
Okay, this one was followed by a romantic comedy starring Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts. Oh. I'm Just a Girl Standing in Front of a Boy.
Hill?
Notting Hill.
Christ, I thought that was earlier in the 90s. Okay.
In 6th place is a great film, and if anyone says otherwise, I will slap chop your face right out of here. Starring recent Oscar winner Brendan Fraser. 6th highest grossing film of 1999.
The Mummy?
The Mummy.
It's a good film.
It's a great film. I love The Mummy.
The first Mummy film was good. The second one was garbage.
Yes, that's true. In 5th place, animated film from Disney, set in a jungle, and a guy who goes, oh!
Tarzan. I haven't actually watched Tarzan.
It's garbage. Don't watch it.
Okay.
And in 4th place is the film that you thought was number 1, but it's not. It's a 4th.
Really? Matrix?
The Matrix,
wow.
yeah.
Something
so
beat the Matrix.
Are you ready
Three
for the
things beat the Matrix.
Are you ready for the 3 that beat it? Are you ready?
Go on, then.
Number 3 is also a sequel, made by Buena Vista and Pixar.
Oh, blimey. Cars 2.
I had
Toy Story 2.
Toy Story 2. I had no idea that was the 90s.
Yeah, it's
I thought
very tail end, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought Toy Story 2 wasn't until like 2004 or something.
No, it was earlier than that. But yeah, I honestly didn't know it was the 90s still.
So what beat that? In 2nd place, starring Mr. Bruce Willis, I See Dead People.
Oh, Sixth Sense was the 90s.
1999, yeah.
Wow.
And number 1, now that you think about it, it's going to be obvious. What massive nerd franchise made a comeback in 1999?
Oh, Jesus, Phantom Menace.
The Phantom Menace.
Of course it's the Phantom Menace.
The biggest disappointment in human history.
Yeah, but then, like Avatar, it was it had a big enough amount of fucking sales behind it to make it a success despite its shortcomings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, going back to American Pie, let's talk a little bit about its critical reception.
Yep.
On Rotten Tomatoes, it has an approval rating of 61%.
Oh, fuck you, Rotten Tomatoes.
With an
sorry, I've lost all respect for Rotten Tomatoes. How can this be higher rated by at least 50% than Wild Hogs, when Wild Hogs is way better?
Wild Hogs! I don't think... No,
Wild Hogs is at least twice as funny as this film.
We will get to that, because it's
Jesus,
not.
man.
No one drinks jizz in Wild Hogs, so it's automatically worse.
Yeah, which is why it's automatically better.
No, it's not. You're going to have some jizz drinking.
This film is garbage.
Science critical consensus reads, so embarrassing it's believable, American Pie succeeds in bringing back the teen movie genre. The more negative reviews of the film included Stephen Holden of the New York Times, who felt that American Pie was one of the shallowest and most prurient teen films.
It is shallow.
Ernest Hardy of Film.com wrote that American Pie had a few amusing bits, however the audience should strongly note that the movie is really awful and that it is not worthy of guilty pleasure status. However, Roger Ebert was more supportive, awarding it 3 out of 4 stars. He noted that it's not inspired, but it's cheerful and hardworking and sometimes funny. And here's the important thing, it's not mean. Its characters are sort of sweet and lovable.
I have to say, I'm losing a lot of respect for Roger Ebert as we read these reviews, because he's almost always wrong.
No, I'm gaining respect for Mr. Ebert.
I'm losing respect for him. Like, 3 out of 4 for this, it's not like... Even if... even if you liked it, it's at best a 2 out of 4. It's a 50-50%.
Oh, well. And it won some awards
Jesus,
as well.
Awards?
Some awards, yeah. It won at the American Comedy Awards. Eugene Levy was nominated for Funniest Supporting Actor.
Eugene Levy, I will give.
Eugene Levy is the
100%.
MVP.
Yes,
He is the MVP.
Yes,
of
he
the
was
film.
fantastic in this film.
Blockbuster Entertainment Awards. Eugene Levy won for Best Supporting Comedy Actor.
Okay.
At the Bogey Awards, which I've never heard of before.
I mean, it doesn't sound like the serious awards, to be honest.
Casting Society of America award. The Casting Society of America awarded it the award for Best Casting of a Feature Film. There you go. Casting directors won an award. You don't see that very often.
But to be fair, the cast wasn't the problem with the film.
No. I actually think the cast's pretty good.
Yeah, no, I'll give it that.
The cast elevate the material because otherwise this could be much worse.
The material is garbage. It's the actors what they do with it. That's why Eugene Levy is the MVP of the film. His role is garbage. He makes the most of it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as always, this is your spoiler warning. If you haven't seen American Pie and you don't want anything spoilt for you, then please do switch off now, because we're about to spoil the plot. So, American Pie is a film about 4 teenage boys who are coming up to graduation in high school, and they're all fretting, nervous, worried, embarrassed that they haven't lost their virginity. So they decide to make a pact that they will each lose their virginity by graduation. And the film kind of follows their misadventures as they try to achieve that goal, before hopefully ultimately realizing that there's much more to it than just the pursuit of sex. So this was a film that was entered into the list by moi. I've seen this film multiple times. I did not see it when it first came out, though. I was too young in 1999. I was 8 years old. So I saw it years later. I remember it obviously being massively popular at my school, though, especially the character of Stifler.
You've got to remember, I was 5 years. I'm 5 years older than, not 4 or 5 years older than you. At this point, 99? I was towards the end of secondary school.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and this film was incredibly popular.
I wasn't in secondary school yet.
Yeah, no. I was probably, what was it? Probably year 10?
Right.
Year 9 or year 10.
Literally the target audience for this.
Yeah. And I hated the sound of it. I hated everything about it. But
you were a killjoy even then.
I'm not a killjoy. I just don't
like
gross out humour.
Pretty much sounds like you're killing my joy.
Well, to be fair, yeah. Yeah, when it's this film. Sorry, carry on.
Anyway, I saw it a few years later, found it very funny. I do have quite a taste for sex comedies and things like that has kind of waned a bit as I've got older, because I realised they're all the same, and most of them are much worse than this. This is one of, if not the best one.
I'll agree with you on that so far.
I think the reason this one is better is because it actually has some skill to the comedy as well.
Yep.
There is the actors and the director do have an awareness of comedic timing.
Yes.
As we pointed out during the bit when Steve Stifler is going to drink the beer, and they keep teasing it. Anyway. Now, the reason I wanted to give this a second take was for 2 reasons. One, I haven't seen it in a long time, and I had a suspicion that I may have outgrown it. Yep. I was curious to see if I still found it funny. Mm-hmm. And secondly, because I thought there might be some bits in this film that may not have aged particularly well. Particularly,
you might be right.
Particularly a scene that everyone is familiar with, where Jim films a woman without consent, without her knowledge, without her consent, and broadcasts it to his entire school, thus ending in her losing her scholarship and having to return. She's an exchange student.
Yeah. She has to return to her home country.
Yeah. Something which the film brushes over very quickly.
Yeah, and actually rewards him for at the end when she's happily watching him on video.
Do another striptease.
Yeah. And she's just like, oh, and it's like they're all best friends again. It's like, would you be? Like, no. Like, this man filmed you and broadcast you to the world.
Yeah.
Or at least to the height, because it can't actually be broadcast globally, can it? But it is to their entire area, and
to the
it
entire
lost,
school, yeah.
yeah, and it lost her everything. And she's just like, oh, it's so cute watching this nerd do this dance. It's like, you wouldn't be. This bullshit.
Yeah, but he got embarrassed.
Oh no! What a torture.
He blew his load in front of the whole school.
She lost her life in America and everything else, and all he gets is, oh, some people call me Two Pump. Oh, bless you, Diddums.
Wouldn't it be no pump? Because he doesn't even get there. Anyway.
He pumps himself, I suppose. Like the breast milk.
He doesn't touch it, man.
No, true.
That's a rare talent. He could market that.
Yeah, there is no pump.
Anyway.
It's like a shotgun without the safety on.
Oh. This shotgun just spontaneously fired. Anyway. So let's break the film up into its basically 5 different storylines, really.
Yeah.
So let's start with what, in my opinion, is actually the worst of the storylines, but is supposed to be the heart of the storyline, which is Kevin and Victoria, which is Tara Reid's character and Thomas Ian Nicholas's character.
It's a really bland, boring, and uninspired story.
This is
those two.
I think this is supposed to be the main heart of the film.
Yeah, it fails
but
completely.
He is the least likable of the lead characters.
I'm not saying this is the actor per se, but the character has no charisma. He has no game. And all it is it comes across as he's playing her by going, I can't tell you I love you back because when I want to say it, I want it to mean something. She basically is like, well, I'm not going to... She ends up basically not having sex until he says it. She kind of bends her rules so to accommodate him to sleep with him at the prom. And then while he's having sex with her, he realizes he loves her. He says he loves her and like, I mean it. And she's like, yeah, but we can't be together because we're going to separate colleges. Basically, goodbye. And it's like, this story was pointless. Like, nothing worked. Nothing happened. It was crap. Out of the storylines, this one and one of the others was pointless.
This is the worst one, in my opinion.
This is... I'd say it's only second worst, because the one with the main character who filmed the foreign exchange...
Jason Biggs.
Yeah, that storyline doesn't work, and that character deserved a lot worse.
Right.
Because of the immoral shit he does. Like, I don't give a shit if he's fucking a pie, but the stuff with Eugene Levy and the fucking the pie could be given to another character, and the film would not be any worse off for it.
Yeah.
And it's not the fault of the actor, it's the writing. That storyline was weak and badly written.
Right.
That's my view. I'm not opinionated, Jamie.
You then have Fincher's storyline, which is that he likes to view himself as refined and more cultured than everyone else at the school.
Yeah.
And he takes the tact of having girls come to him by bribing Natasha Lyonne's character to spread a rumor that, well, word around the office is you got a fat cock. That is it, isn't it?
That joke was better than almost all the jokes in the film, other than Eugene Levy.
Oh, no.
Because it came out of nowhere, it was a surprise. There wasn't really any surprise jokes in this, in that way.
No.
So what we're talking about, for anyone who doesn't know, Jamie shared with me, and it is genuinely funny. It's like a public information video, and it's just like, how to let you... And it's done like a VHS tape. And it's like, how to... what is it? Sexual
harassment can sometimes be verbal.
Yeah, in the office. And it's just two guys at a water cooler, and one just walks up and goes, so word around the office is you have a fat cock. And like we quote that all the time now to each other because it's just so stupid. I wish there was more humour that was that off the cuff and weird. You know, just like because Detention had the potential of being like this style of story, but instead of going into the gross out, it's fused into the absurd. Yeah. And I think this film would have been better, at least for me. And I understand that this is probably to do with because I hate gross out humour anyway. For my particular taste, I would have preferred it if it had gone more in the absurd route. Yeah. Because I really liked Detention, even as stupid and weird as it got from the Bear from Planet Starclaw and shit. I was like, I can get with absurd. I can dig absurd. I think I would have liked more of that in the film. Yeah. I think one thing to clear up is I think we have different definitions of gross out humour as well. Because for me, the only actual real gross humour in this is when Finch is given laxatives
and
No.
has to poop everywhere.
The
I-
drinking the cum.
Yeah, I don't consider that gross out.
That is gross out. And we actually said this during the film. I was like, is it not worse? And for some reason, I was like, is it worse because it's in beer? And you're like, actually, I think it might be.
It is. It's worse drinking it out of a cup instead of straight from the penis.
Straight from the mother's teat.
Yeah, straight from the source, where it's nice and warm
But
still.
it's cooled down in the
Oh.
beer. And you don't want cold cum.
Okay, fair enough. You win. That is gross.
Thank you.
But the film overall, I actually still like. I still
Yeah?
like the film overall.
Okay.
That's Fincher's storyline. Jason Biggs obviously has this storyline where he's trying to get with Nadia, and he fucks all that up, as we've said before, by doing the immoral thing of filming her and streaming her live over the internet. Before eventually, his is one of those stories where it's kind of the you can't always get what you want is the theme, because he actually ends up going to the prom with a band geek who
Yeah.
he had written off, and spoiler alert for you, he actually ends up marrying her.
Oh, okay.
The third film is their wedding.
Right, okay.
So it's what
She uses him at the end of the film, though, and he's like, I got used. All right. And that's
Yeah.
a kind of a cool payoff.
it is, but it is, I will admit, that's one of those things that has aged badly, because this is hard, because on the one hand, I know plenty of guys who would not give a fuck if a girl used them like that.
Yeah,
They'd
yeah.
just be like, yes.
I think that's what he
But-
did as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, but there is also that toxic masculinity angle there.
Well, am
of-
I not good enough to stay with?
Well, no, oh yeah, it's all right to treat guys like that because they like it.
Oh, I see.
To
You're
get
talking
serious
about,
for a
the
moment.
social side
Yeah,
of it,
to
rather
get
than the actual
serious
film.
for
Yeah.
a minute. And I don't want to drag the podcast down, but it's kind of that effect that you get. You know, when you see in the news that a female teacher has slept with a male student,
Yes.
and you'll read the comments on Facebook, and it'll be like,
Loads of guys going, "Oh, it was my dream. I wish
Yeah.
I'd been
oh,
shagged by a
all
teacher when I
right,
was
yeah,
12," you know.
bro, blah
Yeah.
blah blah, things like that, and obviously
you
when
know,
those
it's-
genders are flipped, it's obviously treated like the serious crime that it is.
Do you notice though that the correlation between the amount of guys going, "Yeah, mate, he should think himself lucky. I dreamed I would have had that," is directly related to the hotness of the teacher doing the paedophilia?
Oh, yeah, of course
Yeah,
it
if
is,
it's a
yeah.
hot teacher, they're all like, "Oh, mate, I would have smashed that." When it's an ugly female teacher, they're like, "Oh, mate, that's disgusting."
Yeah.
They suddenly change their tune. It's like, no, that's
But
absolutely
Yeah,
disgusting.
but
behaviour.
of course,
You can't be
paedophilia
accurate.
is paedophilia.
Yes, of course
It's
it is.
bad, and that I'm not saying it's literally the same, but that attitude of, oh yeah, he doesn't care that he got used because he's a bloke, it just furthers this stereotype that I think we played with a lot back then, and we still do kind of today, that men don't actually have feelings,
Or it doesn't matter.
and it's therefore okay to treat them like shit.
I will give this film one defense on that you're not giving it, actually.
That he deserved to be treated like shit because he was a scumbag to Nadia.
That's not what I was going to say. That could also be a read. However, I was going to say, I think the reason he's relieved that she just used him is because he didn't actually like her. And he was getting bored of her at one time at band camp. And because she kept repeating it, he was just getting more and more bored. And then eventually she's just like, I like having sex, let's go bang. And he's like, oh, okay. So he gets his, and then she leaves. It's great. I don't have to talk to her anymore.
The one time at band
So,
camp is
yeah.
probably the longest setup for a joke in the whole film, because all the way through the film, it's one time at band camp we built a campfire. One time at band camp
Yeah,
we
it's
did
really
boring
low
stuff.
quality
And then
storyline.
out of nowhere, it's one time at band camp I stuck a flute in my pussy. And he
Yeah.
like spits his drink and he's like, what?
The timing on that wasn't good.
What, on him spitting the drink?
Yeah.
Um,
It ruined that.
Yeah.
It ruined the punctuation of the joke.
I agree he could have spit faster. There's too much of
It's a
a...
very strange podcast where we're talking about this man should spit
Hey,
fest.
we're doing American, but it's a film where a guy fucks an apple pie. What do you want from me?
Was it apple?
Yeah,
it looked
yeah.
red on the
No,
inside.
it does look red on the inside, but it must be apple because when he asks him what third base feels like,
Yeah,
he
he
says
says
warm apple pie,
Now,
and then
I'm wondering
and then
if
Jim
the
goes,
props department fucked up on
and then
that.
Jim goes, McDonald's or homemade?
Yes, that was a good joke.
I did like that one.
That's a good joke.
And the best storyline, in my opinion, is Oz's
Yes,
storyline.
I completely agree.
Because it's don't get me wrong, it's very predictable, but it is the storyline of a jock player type character who, you know, at the start of the thing, he's really arrogant. He's like, my friends call me Nova, as in Casanova. And he literally like thinks it's as easy as getting a girl in a car and going, suck me beautiful. And she laughs in his face quite rightly.
I will say, though, in his defense, she is contributing nothing to that conversation. He's doing all the work. She could have made it a little bit easier on maybe giving him the... I'm not saying this excuses his behavior.
He shouldn't have said, "Suck me beautiful."
Yeah. No, I'm not giving... But the thing is she looked like she was the most fucking boring date in the universe. Like,
how can she be? You're here.
Mate, I can talk for days.
Oh, don't remind us.
Yeah,
anyway,
baby.
he ends up joining the choir group.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think it's choir, it's a cappella, isn't it? He joins the a cappella group initially as like a scheme, and he's like, yeah, there's all these band chicks that no one's trying
to bang someone there because they never get any.
Yeah, and no one's going after them because everyone assumes they're prudes. But he ends up actually finding a real passion there, not only for the music, but for Heather, played by Mina Savari. And his is kind of the nicest story. He's not the best actor.
I mean...
He's a bit limited.
I mean, I've seen him in Rollerball. What are you talking about?
Well, yeah, of course. The best actor in the film is Eugene Levy.
Yes.
It's Eugene Levy. And Sean William Scott's great too. His character is obviously very obnoxious.
But he plays that well.
And his comedic timing, like his facial expressions.
Yeah.
We both laughed when Oz leaves the game at the end and it cuts back to him and he's just like, guys, I don't think he's coming back.
Yeah, that was a good cutaway, and that was a very good cutaway. There are parts to this film let's get onto it when you start.
Okay, so that's fair enough. For me, it's always been a decent film because it has been, as most good comedies are, it has a nugget of relatability at the core that is then...
I could relate to the Oz
stretched.
One. The Oz storyline I could relate to.
Were you a hardcore lacrosse jock at one point?
Of course I was. Actually, I was quite good at rugby. I was a small man.
I was good at rugby. You'll have been good at rugby for the same reason I was good at rugby.
Because you were good at throwing yourself and injuring yourself.
Low centre of gravity and you're heavy.
Yeah. I used to...
once this train starts running, ain't nothing stopping it.
Well, so I wasn't fast, and I wasn't good with the ball, and you think, well, this guy's useless at rugby. But yeah, I was small, and I used to... And I didn't care if I hurt myself. So I'd throw myself to the point where I put my head between their knees and my shoulders would take out their knees as they ran.
Sounds kinky.
Yeah, it would take them down. I will say I couldn't relate to the Biggs storyline at all.
What do you mean by the big one?
The Biggs.
Jason Biggs. Yeah, Jim.
Couldn't relate to his storyline.
Well, I would like to think you would never stream someone against their will
or
online. Well, I don't know.
Those are his two big story points.
You do seem like a pie fucker.
I don't fuck pies, my friend.
One day I'm gonna show you the film Devil's Rejects.
The pies fuck me. I'm so sexually magnetic.
I don't love the drugs. The drugs love me.
There is a storyline in this that actually you and I kind of agreed actually kind of ruins itself by putting the joke ending that they did to it, which was Sherman, the nerd.
I didn't necessarily agree that ruins it.
I
could see where you were coming from,
right?
About how it would add a different component.
It seemed to add an extra layer if he didn't lie about it.
I agree, but I also found him to be really scummy, so I kind of liked that he got a comeuppance.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, but if you're letting Jason Biggs away with it...
True, that is true. That is an
basically.
example of bias. We're letting Jason Biggs off because he's presented as a main character, and even though he's a nerd character, he's more of a fairly attractive guy, whereas Sherman is presented as weedy, acne, he's sweaty.
Yeah.
But to be fair, he does say things like, "I'm a sophisticated sex robot sent back through time."
Okay, I'm then going to quote Predator. I'm a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus.
That's different. So that's Sherman, and unfortunately I don't remember his name, the actor's name, I'm afraid. But Sherman, Jesse the Body Ventura.
I see your point as well.
Let's do that as a buddy cop. Of those two, which one do you think would actually be a sexual Tyrannosaurus?
Jesse the Body Ventura.
Yeah.
But
actually, all them roids probably don't work no more.
So actually, Sherman's probably got.
I don't think it was ever confirmed he was on roids, so I retract that statement.
He spent a lot of time. I know he got screwed over by Schwarzenegger from like when they were doing bodylifting.
Yeah.
He got the
wardrobe
to lie about how big his biceps were. And then they go, "Oh, Jesse, you know you're bigger than Arnie." And then Arnie bet him who had the bigger biceps and won and took his money. Sort of douchey thing
That's
Schwarzenegger used to do.
That's
but
kind of like how Arnie tricked Stallone into doing Stop or My Mum Will Shoot.
yes, he was like, he was never going to do that film. He's like, oh, if Arnie's going to do it, I'll do it instead.
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger knew how to cop people out into stupid moves, didn't he? He was quite clever, really.
So, American Pie is actually a franchise that's got multiple films in it now.
Yes. You said about 9 or something.
If you give me 1 second, there's 4 main ones. Then there's the spin-off series, which is Bandcamp, Naked Mile, Beta House, Book of Love, and there's a new one that's just come out called Girls Rule. So, we're up to 9 films in this franchise. Now, I will say that the spin-off series, American Pie Presents,
kind of don't count.
Is nearly entirely garbage. There are a couple that have decent moments in them. I'm not proud of it, but in the one called Beta House, there are a few jokes in it that I do laugh at, including when they end up in a fight in a strip bar, and the guy just yells, "Stripper brawl!" And then this stripper uses her fake boobs to, like, knock a guy out. And there's another bit where basically the plot of Beta House is, you know, they're fraternities in American unis. So there's Beta House, which is the party house, and it's run by Stifler's cousin.
Right.
Because all the spin-offs have got a different Stifler in them.
Right.
Who's related to the original Stifler.
Yeah.
And they have a competition against the Geek House, which is all run by, like, Mark Zuckerberg types.
Right.
And they basically have an Olympiad, a series of competitions, and whoever wins, the other house has to leave campus.
Right.
And this has suitably gross-out games, including a parody of the famous scene in The Deer Hunter.
Right.
Do you know the famous scene with the
I've seen
Russian roulette?
Good film.
Yeah, well, in this parody, the bullet in the gun is a capsule full of horse cum.
Ugh.
Yeah. But there's a good bit in it that I do laugh at where, because it's one of the less gross challenges, is all they've got to do is oil themselves up and catch a piglet that has also been oiled up.
Right.
And Beta House choose the fat guy on the team. Right. And they're like, how's a fat guy going to catch a pig?
Squirrel, piggy, squirrel.
No, they're like, how's a fat guy going to catch this pig because he's out of shape? Yeah. And the Geek Squad put like a parkour master in.
Right.
And he just turns to them, the fat guy, and he goes, I'm telling you, I'm the right choice for this, man. I know what the pig is thinking. Because he is a pig himself, is the implication there. But anyway, back to the original American Pie. Let's talk Eugene Levy, because this is the
He's
thing that was going on.
Eugene,
like the scenes, him and Jason Biggs play off each other very well. Yes. It's very believable as a hapless dad who is very awkwardly trying to be supportive, a little too supportive. Yeah. Of his son. The scene where he brings him the porno magazines.
Yeah, that is a funny scene.
And he's like, it looks like a kind of tropical plant.
Yeah. Eugene Levy manages to deliver almost everything in this film perfectly. I didn't like his final scene. He's dancing.
Did you not like the dance?
I didn't think the dance was funny.
I was like, that is a goofy fucking dance.
It is a goofy dance, but it wasn't goofy enough.
You wanted goofier?
I wanted goofier. I wanted proper goof. But anyway, the point is, I mean, that's personal taste, and that didn't ruin the film. Eugene Levy mastered every single scene he was in, pretty much. And I haven't really got much more to say. He's the only good thing in it, other than maybe the guy who plays Stifler.
Sean William Scott.
Yeah. Everyone else is okay. I don't think there's any bad actors in this. There's no one that I'd point to and go, that guy sucks, or that girl sucks in the role. They're all pretty good. But the material isn't very good. I honestly think it's a case of Eugene Levy elevated the parts with his delivery that he had. Think of those lines read by anyone else, they'd be garbage. There's also a case of most of the characters don't really come off well. Like there's no positive players really in the main cast. they're all pretty douchey, apart from Oz, who starts off douchey and sort of he's the only one with a real growth curve to his character.
Yeah.
Like, the guy who ends up, like, you can't say that he loves his girlfriend. That guy doesn't really have an arc. He just kind of gets to a point where he's like, oh, since I've got my dick in her, I love you. Oh, she's leaving. End of story. Jason Biggs' character doesn't have an arc, and he doesn't grow, and he doesn't learn anything, and he doesn't get punished suitably for what he does. You've got the guy who spreads rumours that he's got big cock and all this stuff.
Finch.
Yeah, and he also, and like the one that gets him back basically is where he lies and says that he's beaten up Stifler, but because Stifler's clearly harder than him.
Yeah.
So Stifler gets a prank on him where he makes him shit himself with laxatives. But he doesn't really have an
In
arc
the girls'
either.
toilets as well.
Yeah. But he doesn't really have an arc either.
No, he comes out on top in the end because he bangs Stifler's mum.
Yes, but he doesn't really have an arc. There's the only one who has a character arc is Oz.
Yeah.
And where I'm thinking of this film, like, because I know this, like, again, you've read the things. I know it's not like 10 out of 10 rated, but it is, for a comedy of this type, quite highly rated. And I will say it was better than I expected it to be. Like, I despise gross out comedies. This doesn't have as much gross out in it. And even some of the gross out jokes, like the cum in the beer, I hate that joke. But what I do like is the way that the director played who would drink it and when. Yeah. And that they kept blocking each other from drinking it without knowing.
Yeah, like turning away at the last minute and stuff.
That joke for me, and I know you would probably disagree because you said this at the time, like, but it wouldn't work without the payoff. I could have done with that joke without him drinking it and vomiting. That whole tease of, oh fuck, no, that's fine. But when he then drinks it and then he throws up and vomits, nah, you've lost me.
Yeah, no, I needed the payoff.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it feels like it's, for lack of a better word, it feels like a cock tease.
Yes, but then the joke is shit and don't do the joke because I hate gross out and I do not like that type of humour.
Yeah, but you can't say that they can't ever do that type of humour just because you don't like it.
No, but they could do it better. By doing a different type of humour that's actually funny. See, my point is...
But that's for you.
Yeah, but that's...
You keep talking like this, like you're speaking for everyone on planet Earth.
But you're asking... This is about our opinions on the film.
I know, but I'm just saying, your opinion.
Yeah, in my opinion, there would have been a better joke in there if they played it a different way.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
Just... because you sometimes...
Am I sounding like I'm on a soapbox?
No, it's not that. It's just... I don't know if you've noticed, but
could be.
You sometimes have a habit of speaking as if you're speaking for everyone else.
Do I?
Sometimes, yeah.
Oh, I apologise.
I do it when I talk about Resident Evil, though.
No, that's fair.
To be fair. And I'm like, nobody likes the Resident Evil films.
Also delivered by Constantine Films.
I know. Unfortunately, loads of people do like the Resident Evil films.
Yeah.
People with no taste. Oh, no, I'm doing it.
So,
arrogance.
Yeah, no, okay, fair play. I apologise for coming off like a
No, I'm just pointing out.
No, it's a fair criticism.
So I take
I don't want to sound pretentious, but I can't help it when I think so low of this genre.
I take it you weren't impressed then when Kevin pops his head in and says, "Hey, Stifler, how's the pale ale?"
No, not for me. Body fluid transfer in that way is really not where Rory gets his kicks.
No. To be honest, for me, the worst kind of comedies usually are parodies. I'm really not a fan of parody comedy.
Yes.
Sometimes it can be good. Sometimes it can be good.
Yeah. I will say this is one of the better gross outs that I've seen. And I'll be honest, I don't watch many because I know I don't like the genre. I think because this is the first one that made any waves and started off the whole thing. There are obviously some gross out elements, but there's only really 2 or 3. Most of the jokes are just humiliation comedy, which aren't great sometimes, certainly in terms of like the web streaming thing. But it is mostly humiliation comedy. So it sort of lands a little bit better. It wasn't as bad a time as I expected. I do have a question to you, though, because I know you enjoy it a lot more than I do.
Can I just quickly say, I know I shouldn't, but I really like the joke. You know when he blows his load too soon?
Yes.
I really like that the little monkey covers its eyes.
Yeah.
I know that's so silly. Which we should point out, cameo by Blink-182.
Yeah.
Fun fact, because there's 4 of them, isn't there, in the scene? The blonde guy, obviously is not known for being in Blink-182. That's because between filming the cameo and the film actually coming out, he got fired from the band.
Oh. Because he was always on the computer while the band were
Yeah, well, yeah.
but
yeah, no.
They were all practicing. He was on the computer.
I know. But yeah, no, I liked the monkey.
Yeah. No, fair enough.
But go on, question for me.
So my question for you, because, again, you and I have very different opinions on this film. So, I know this is a better film, so I'm not saying it's on the exact same peg. But what are the major differences for you that make this film work, but the film... And this is weird because I'm going to be referring to a film from VGMP, our sister show.
Joysticks.
No, Noobs.
Noobs.
This is a lot more in common with Noobs and Joysticks.
Right. This is actually funny.
Yeah. Okay,
that's the difference.
Okay, but what makes this funnier than Noobs?
Right,
because they're very similar.
Yeah, so first of all, this is filmed a lot better. Let's point that out.
Yeah, the cinematography is better.
The camera never moves in Noobs.
No.
For me, the jokes just work better. See, Noobs... The problem with Noobs is most of your actors... Not all. There's some good actors in Noobs. But most of your actors in Noobs are not good.
That's true.
The main guy, for instance,
yeah,
whose name I don't even remember.
Jason something.
No, Jason Mewes. You're thinking of
yeah, I am, aren't I?
The main guy was a guy.
Another Jason.
Maybe, yeah.
At this point. Yeah.
The best person in Noobs was Armageddon.
Yes.
Armageddon,
who was also the best person in Joysticks.
Yeah. To be fair, yes. I think what it is Noobs, for starters, wasn't nearly as relatable to me, because the difference is... Do you know what the difference might be? Other than just I do think it's a better script.
Sure.
The difference might be that there is a difference between teenagers acting this way and being dumb and being raunchy.
Yeah.
And grown men, because
so
the point of
difference is what makes one more acceptable.
I think that could be part of it, because obviously in Noobs the point is that they're all fucking losers.
Yeah, they're like meant to be late 20s probably, but they're clearly all in their 30s at
least.
Youngest.
Yeah. And they're just wasting their lives on video games.
Yeah.
And
they are all actual losers.
Yeah, and that might actually be because the fourth American Pie film, American Reunion, not counting the spin-offs, there's four main ones: American Pie, American Pie 2, American Pie The Wedding, and American Reunion. American Reunion was made in 2011, so we're talking quite a way afterwards.
12
right?
years after the first.
They're all clearly grown-ups at this point, coming back for their high school reunion, and it doesn't work.
Right, so you think the age may have a part to play?
I think there
not
is
a full part, but some part.
Yeah.
The reason I ask, specifically with Noobs more than something like Joysticks, is because I know Joysticks had a lot more sexual stuff, but that was a lot more like the early 80s comedy of of the era.
Sex comedies, yeah.
Yeah, whereas Noobs was... It was clearly an offshoot, way too late as well for anyone to give a shit, of the gross out comedy angle. It wasn't as gross as a lot of other ones from the
Yeah, I don't really remember much gross out humour in Noobs.
No, but it was clearly based on that style of comedy. It came out of this epic movie, all of that style of comedy. Lowbrow humour, basically, as it's termed sometimes. Not by me, but fuck it. But to me, this has a similar problem to Noobs with the characters, in that they don't have any story progression. And this is the part that I find fascinating. Bear in mind that I don't find the film overtly funny, though I will say, again, more than I expected it to be. I did enjoy it more than I thought I would. I just don't generally think it's a very good film. But we've mentioned before, apart from Oz, none of the main characters have any story growth or any character growth and development. Noobs has the same problem. One is lauded, one is not. Generally, for me, that I think one of the main problems I have with this film that maybe would have... Because, as you said, there's only really 3 gross out bits. I might have enjoyed the film even more and maybe thought it's actually a good film despite those 3 elements, is if the characters had more progression. And that was a big problem with Noobs. It's a big problem in all those sort of epic movies and things like that. The characters are just what they are all the time. And it's also a problem in this, apart from Oz.
The big problem in Noobs as well is not only is there not the character progression for most characters, but for the characters that there are progression for, the ending actively undoes the progression.
Yes, Jason Mewes' character is completely undone, isn't he?
Yeah, so is Armageddon.
Yes.
Armour
yes.
McGregor, his whole storyline is that he learns his lesson that his son is more important than Frogger,
Yeah.
only for us to get told in a post-tech crawl, in a credits crawl,
Yeah.
that he goes right back to playing the Frogger Championship. Then, fair enough, there might not be much in the way of progression for most of the American Pie cast,
Yeah. At least Oz was one.
but what there isn't undone. And in
Yes.
fact, the sequel continues from where they leave off.
Yeah.
So the sequel, this is only true for American Pie 2. Pretty much the entire cast return.
Right.
And they've all gone off to college, and they come back from the summer to meet each other, so it jumps ahead a year.
Right.
And a lot of storylines pick up. So Victoria and Kevin see each other again after being separated for a year.
Yeah.
And there's that question of, we've got this history, we were each other's firsts. Can we just get back together?
Right.
But no, because nothing's changed. You're still at different unis. Jason Biggs is, again, it's kind of a repeat of his American Pie 1 storyline, but except they get the ending right this time, I think.
Right.
Which is Nadia turns up again. And he starts going after Nadia again.
Right.
Only to end up with Michelle, the band geek.
Right.
But the difference being, in 1, it's kind of he gets stuck with her because everyone knows he blew his load.
Yeah.
In 2, it's more akin to what Oz does in this one, where he realizes, yeah. Which is why I do like American Pie 2 quite a bit as well,
Okay.
because it is a natural progression. Noobs does just completely undo.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
I mean,
it's done.
the worst one is the Jason Mewes one to me. I know you don't like the Armour McGregor one either, and that's right. But the Jason Mewes one where he goes after Zelda Williams, Robin Williams' daughter, no less. He chases her. He even destroys his own chance at winning the championship.
He deliberately
for her.
loses to let her win.
Yeah, and then later on, he just fucks another guy's mum, and they're in a relationship. But that's just in a post-credits crawl. And you're like, like what? So that was meaningless, like the whole thing. Yeah,
and to be honest, you know what? Going with Roger Ebert as well here.
Yeah.
Most of American Pie, you could argue Sherman, but the majority of American Pie, the humor is not mean. The humor in Noobs is mean at points.
Yeah.
There's all the stuff with Fraggot.
Oh god, that whole character is just a gay panic meme.
Oh god, I killed the baby.
Yeah, that never ends.
And there's actually there's against Lynn Shay as well, the old lady.
Yes, they keep ripping on her because she's older.
Because she's old, yeah, and is dating a younger man, which is absolutely fine.
They say MILF quite a bit, but they don't actually continuously rip on Stifler's mum for being old.
No, and as the films go on, like, it's a real, like, everyone has respect for Finch because he keeps nailing Stifler's mum. Because it's fucking Jennifer Coolidge, like... Back in the 90s, Jennifer Coolidge.
Yeah.
Because I think she's had a shit ton of plastic surgery now, I think.
I think she probably did at that point.
But she's a really good actress. She's actually just won, I want to say an Emmy, I think, for a show called The White Lotus, which I haven't seen yet, but I really want to see. Okay. It's like a murder mystery thing, and she's won this massive award for it.
Nice.
Which is really good, because the biggest thing I know her from, other than American Pie and a little cameo in Friends... is she is Sophie the Polish neighbour in Two Broke Girls, the sitcom.
Right.
Doing a pretty stereotypical Polish accent. So yeah. I think that's why I prefer this. And I'm sure there's an element of nostalgia playing a part in this, because I saw this while I was a teenager. It was the first, even though I didn't see it when it came out, this was the first, like, teen sex comedy that I saw. I saw it right at a time when I would have been around the age of the main guys in it. Yeah. Probably slightly younger.
Well, it came out bang on when I was the age of the guys.
Yeah, exactly. So I liked it, you know.
No, fair enough. Yeah.
No, one thing I will say is I do think what sells this as well is I do think that the 5 main guys have a good chemistry together. I felt like their friendship was quite believable when they're doing that thing, when they're in the hot dog place and they're doing that thing that I know I do with my friends, where you're kind of all ragging on each other, but it's in a friendly way. Like they're all taking the mick out of his shirt, aren't they, and stuff like that. It felt believable that they were all friends. Which...
In that scene, it did. I'll be honest, it didn't sell to me very much. It didn't not sell either. It was just, it didn't stand out. Sometimes relationships work for some people and not others in films, though. To me, it was just sort of... Yeah. Their friendship, unfortunately, has a lot of... It is very similar to the friendships almost in what I see anyway of the In-Betweeners. Because they're kind of nerds, and they're all similar archetypes of nerds.
I admit I do think of In-Betweeners as like the British version of American Pie.
Yeah, and it's garbage. So all right, so you've seen this before. Have you changed your mind?
No, I still like it.
Yeah.
I agree. The Nadia scene has aged badly.
Really badly.
And I guess I kind of have to do a bit of self-reflection for why I never realised back then how wrong that was.
It doesn't have to be that harsh on yourself. Like, when I watched Ace Ventura, that ending, that's very transphobic. I don't tend to have to do self-reflection because I didn't think of it back then. The era was different.
I think it was back then because I would never do that to someone.
No.
But back then, I think, not to sound like I'm going, oh, today's terrible, but back then, a film could just be a film.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to mean anything. It didn't have to be reflective of the real world. You know, you could have something like this and not sit there going, oh, yeah, everyone... what does this say about children in America today? What does this mean? They're gonna prank each other with laxatives and take massive shits in the girls' bathroom?
I mean, I don't think anyone's querying that, even in a modern sense. But I see your point. But at the same token, yeah, I wouldn't beat yourself up for that because the era is different, awareness is different. The fact is, I suppose a lot of people, I would hope, like you and me, if I'd seen this at the time, I wouldn't have thought much of that scene either. But because you would imagine that it's so ridiculous as to be something that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I think the problem is the bubble has burst on that, let's say, innocence for now. Unfortunately, that's sort of, and it's done in revenge sometimes against women and things like that.
I don't
even against men, actually, if you include Hulk Hogan in that. But yeah, that sort of thing is done in a revenge style against people, and we're aware of that now.
Yeah, we didn't know about revenge porn back then.
No. So I think sometimes maybe do yourself a little solid and maybe not cry yourself to sleep about having missed the worst aspects of that.
Yeah. So, how are you feeling having finally seen American Pie?
I really want to say...
Do you feel like you've been robbed of your innocence?
No. I'm kind of glad I watched it. I still don't like it, but I don't hate it. I hate the fact that I don't hate it. But I don't hate it. Let me put it this way. I would never go and watch it on my own just because I'm like, oh, let's watch American Pie. That's never going to happen. But... let's say I was with a girl and she was like, you know what, I liked American Pie, can we watch that? I probably wouldn't get on my soapbox like I have done during this. I'd be like, you know what, fine. I know the 3 bits that are shit, that I hate, that I don't want to see. I'll know when they're coming. I'll either just suck it up, buttercup, and let them pass, or I'll have a reason to go to the loo. Just be like, oh no, keep it playing, I've seen it before. And let her watch it while I go to the loo and then come back. Like that's definitely at the vomit scene. But it was a little bit more, I wouldn't say artistic maybe is the word, but there was some artistry.
You don't see, because I was obviously not remembering properly.
You don't see the vomit.
I was a little bit like, oh shit, do you literally see like a torrent of vomit? Because I'm pretty sure the sequels you do.
Yeah, like things like Scary Movie years later would also show you cum, vomit, and all that sort of stuff, full, like as much, to excess.
Yeah. To inhuman excess in the case of Scary Movie 1 and 2.
Yeah.
When he sticks it to the ceiling.
I did see the first Scary Movie when it was
Yeah.
current, and I found it funny.
So you saw
Because I was
So you saw Scary Movie before you saw Scream.
Yes.
Interesting.
I didn't get some of the references. But I knew kind of what they were relating to because Scream was massive in the zeitgeist.
Oh yeah.
So I didn't hate it. That I know I've ranted off a little bit about it. I don't think it's a good film. I don't think it's I still think Roger Ebert is over-egged the pudding on giving it the score he gave it. It is no more than a 5 out of 10 at the best of times. But at least it's that high. Before I'd watched it, I would have said it was a 1 or a 0.
Yeah.
I could watch it again if I needed to. And I wouldn't necessarily hate it. Maybe I'll try and appreciate something else in the film that I missed the first time round. Yeah, it's all right. It's you know what, you've done the impossible, Jamie. You've shown me a gross out film. I said, it's all right, and that's as best as any of these films I've ever gotten.
Fair enough.
So congratulations, applaud Jamie, everyone.
Yay.
He's done a service for the gross out film. One thing I will say about the genre. Because I'm going to spoil the movie magic a little bit here. We actually reviewed Split Second today on the same day that we recorded this. And while they're not anywhere near the same films, what I'm intrigued by is the genres. Cyberpunk and gross out humor, they've kind of both had their day. The difference was that Cyberpunk had some artistic entries and then it became kind of filled quite quickly with garbage. Because it was easy to do on a low budget and for video nasties and things like that. Cyberpunk kind of during the 90s, like late 80s and 90s, became very much full of that. Split Second is kind of, I think, part of that deal. Gross out humor started with this. Let's be honest, this is the originator of making it popular. And Scary Movie and then all the epic movies and stuff like that continued that tradition on. And then by the time of Noobs in 2013, it was all but dead with a few stragglers. The difference is that Cyberpunk came back a little bit with things like Blade Runner 2049 with some high art. I think Cyberpunk has that ability to come back as high art if in the right hands with the right budgets, etc. I don't think that's possible with this genre. Now, that could just be me because I don't like this genre in general. Things like Jackass and things like that, which I know are not necessarily narrative, can't stand that shit. In-Betweeners can't stand that shit. But you do. So this is probably as close as an artistic entry into this genre as there's ever been. Do you think there would ever be the option of a decent artistic revival of this genre?
So it depends on the genre we're talking about here, because as we've said, like, I don't really consider this a gross out comedy. I consider it a teen sex comedy.
I think that's why it gets away with it.
Definitely teen sex comedy can and will come back, because American Pie is not the first of those. Remember, you had a wave of them in the 80s sparked by Porky's.
Yes, yep.
Then American Pie, because by the time you get to the 90s, and Porky's is out of date.
Yeah.
Teenagers aren't behaving that way anymore.
No, there were no teen sex comedies, I don't think, in the early 90s.
No, we are
been
due
replaced with rom-coms.
Yeah, we are due for another teen sex comedy, because I'm sure Gen Z would watch American Pie and it makes no sense to them, because it's not that way anymore.
Yeah.
Like
the way the internet looks on there, for example, is completely it's disconnected.
To
from
be
what
honest,
kids know.
I'm going to sound like a grandpa here, and I don't mean to, and fine, Jamie's out of touch, etc., etc., etc. I actually don't know how you make Gen Z dating funny, because Gen Z dating is all about people, A, desperate not to look like fools, whereas in this film only works because these boys are prepared to look like fools in the pursuit of what they're after.
Yeah.
The other thing about Gen Z dating is it's all online.
Yeah.
So actually, I don't know if you could even make it work, but in theory, there is no reason it couldn't, because the actual real-life subject matter that the comedy is trying to
it's
get
cyclical.
around,
It will always come back because there will always be people wanting to bone.
Yeah, and it will always change. The rules of the dating game will always change.
Yeah.
And that anxiety is something that teenagers are always going to have. It is a natural thing. I know, fair enough, you said you didn't have it, but it's a natural thing for 90% of people, I think, when you're at school, not necessarily to sit worrying about it all the time, but when you're getting to like 17, 18, and suddenly someone in your class, like, oh shit, Tommy and Gina have had sex. Fuck. When am I going to have sex? Like,
It's so alien what you're
shit.
saying to me. I must be from another fucking
and you don't,
planet.
and you don't want to be the last one.
Didn't bother me.
Which,
I don't know why it bothers you so much. I don't know what my ex said that as well. She was like, I didn't want to be the last one to have this. I'm like, why did you care?
It didn't
And
bother
I think
me.
it must be me, because a lot of people do mention how sex
Sexless
and
you are.
No, I'm not sexless.
Part of mine is the fact, the way I am. Of course I was eager to lose it. But to be fair, having said that, I don't think I would have wanted to lose it to just anyone.
No.
I ended up losing mine to someone very special,
Yeah.
who I was then with for 8 years.
Wow.
But yes, it is, as you say, it's a different experience. My point is, I think that can come back. And to be honest, probably gross out comedy will come back at some point. I'm not saying it'll ever be high art.
Well, it'll
but
be because shock humor
genres are
tends to come
cyclical.
back, and it's also cyclical.
Yeah.
I think the gross
It's
out
all
of this era
cyclical.
was the shock humor of its time, and which is why sometimes in this film, there's I think the shock humor element of it. So Little Britain was good at this, and I say good, not saying that the series was good. They'd come up with an idea, like the guy was like bitty, and the first time you watch it, it's a shock, and in that way, it's kind of funny. But then the problem that with it is they'd repeat that joke every week, so it wasn't funny anymore. And gross out humor had this thing where it introduced a shocking concept that was kind of gross and shocking because of it, and then it would just repeat the joke and try and add more gross out to it.
Because I think we must be please coming to the end of the current dominant humour in cinema is what I like to call sark humour.
It's very MCU.
It is the MCU. Yeah. It's that very sarky. We were talking about it the other day in the new Spider-Man film.
Yeah.
When Doc Ock is like, my name is Otto Octavius, and Spider-Man laughs at him. And he's like, really? That's your name? The problem is, they're nearly all that at the minute. Yeah. Because comedy movies, where are they? Where are the comedy movies, Rory? Where are the comedy movies that aren't crossed with another genre? There's action comedies, like, what was the one I watched the other day? I actually watched one the other day with Dave Bautista in it, where he's a spy and he ends up looking after this girl. My Spy, it's called.
Right.
But that's an action comedy.
Yeah.
There's comedy in the MCU, like we said.
It's kind of a sci-fi superhero comedy.
But where's the just comedy films?
Yeah, I think...
where's Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson? Where have they gone?
They're doing a Dodgeball 2
Where's Jim Carrey?
Jim Carrey's quit.
Well, we know where Jim Carrey is. He's doing Sonic the Hedgehog.
Well, he's quit now, isn't he?
For definite.
He's quit acting completely. Again.
I knew he was considering it. I didn't know he definitely made that decision.
I think he's made the decision now. I hope not, because I'd like to see him in Sonic 3 as Robotnik again.
Well, because they reckon they're not replacing him, don't they?
Yeah.
They've said if he's not in it, then they're not doing Robotnik anymore.
Yeah.
Which you can't have a Sonic franchise without Robotnik.
They could do one film without a Robotnik.
Yeah, you could do one.
But they couldn't do a franchise without him. No. So, I mean, to be fair, if they can get a decent trilogy out of the Sonic films currently, then that's a better run than I gave them.
Cast an actual fat guy.
Well, they could do for Gerald Robotnik.
I'll tell you who I want for Dr. Robotnik. I'm not even joking. I'm being serious here. If you've not got Jim Carrey anymore, do you know I want Dr. Robotnik to be?
Danny DeVito.
Bryan Cranston.
He's not fat. You said you cast a fat guy.
Yeah, stick him in a fat suit, because they're not offensive. I don't care what you say. I'm fat. I'm allowed to say that. I'm fat as fuck. I'm probably one of the fattest people on the planet. I'm 12 stone overweight. Like, I am fat as shit, right? And I'm telling you that fat suits are not offensive. Put Bryan Cranston in a fat suit with the big ginger thing. He'll use his comedy chops from Malcolm in the Middle. He'll use his drama chops from playing Heisenberg. And it'll be perfection.
I actually don't know if I would put him there. Anyway, we've gone completely off topic.
Get rid of Donut Lord. Put Aaron Paul in as Sonic's human buddy.
And
Jesse!
And Sonic's fast because they keep cooking meth and he's going off his nut on
Hey,
meth.
that's why the meth's blue.
Yeah.
Let's see you try to make it through here, Jesse. You know you want it. You know you want it.
Oh.
And what's Cranston doing? His new TV series is ending this year. He needs a job.
He's got a TV series?
Called Your Honor.
Oh, yes,
Apparently it's quite good from what I've heard.
Yeah.
But it's ending this year.
Yeah.
He's going to be on the lookout for a new job.
Something
Shave that head bald again. Stick on a mustache. Boom. Dr. Robotnik.
Shall we cut back to American Pie? I think we're near the end of this.
Yeah. I think, well, you asked me a question and I've answered it.
Go on.
To your satisfaction, I hope.
Yeah. I think maybe that's the question to leave to the audience. What do they think? Just a pure comedy movie now. How would you do that? Like, not a comedy horror, not a comedy action film, not a comedy sci-fi, comedy superhero, just a comedy movie. Yeah. What would you do with it now? Like, there's no liars, there's no...
Joe, I think they don't make them anymore. I think someone, much like they did with horror a few years ago, I think someone has incorrectly convinced studios that they won't sell.
I think the other thing as well, maybe the idea is that with the rise of social media and YouTube, things like that...
It's funny.
Well, no, it's not that. I think it's... They've decided, whoever they may be, maybe have decided that just pure comedy with nothing else, you can't pad it out with CGI, or there's no reason to, or, expensive budgets, so it's just YouTube shit now. It's like, well, why would we spend 15 million making a movie that people could write and create for YouTube? I think that might be the reason.
Yeah, that is a possibility.
Yeah, but the problem is YouTube videos don't have the access to, well, A, funds, but B, casting agents, things like that for certain actors. And at the moment, why would they mess with the formula?
Anyway, I think we'll wrap it up there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to our show. Please do follow, share, subscribe, like, and leave reviews on whatever your podcasting app of choice is. They are so helpful for helping us get further up the algorithm, get the show seen by more people, which is, of course, what we want. Thank you very much. And I think it's time to safely say that is a wrap on American Pie.